Good sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective. Hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and our local IIHF World Championships expert, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. Pucks on ice, sticks in rows. How long will this episode be? Nobody knows. We don't know, everybody. We have two big topics to talk about today. But I mean, heck, Dom, we've kind of been crushing out all of our information. We talked about the draft. We talked about the Avalanche and the Sharks free agency debacles going in. We talked about Avalanche 2C. We talked about how the draft actually works. We've been keeping up with the IIHF. I think we're kind of admittedly starting to run out of things to talk about, but you know, that's okay, everyone. We're still going to have an action-packed and thrilling episode for you today. It just might not be our typical 2 hours, but I will say, if you like longer episodes and you haven't listened to the older ones, by all means, go back. Go check them out. We're at 17 of 20 followers, so we're very close. We're very close to that number, so it's gone up by 1. So be the person that gets us over the hump. Be that 20th follower, and we will love you forever. But Dom, here we are. Hockey.
You know what we don't love forever is the fact that Florida has scored a third goal in the second period in the span of less than 5 minutes.
Huh?
Yep.
Hold on. I have it pulled up right now. I have it. No, I do. I had it at 2-2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the live feed from TNT. So I'm at 7:45.
Oh my! I'm at 7:54. Now I'm seeing this goal. Who has scored this?
I honestly don't know. I didn't want to interrupt your intro because I was having a lot of fun with that. I was enjoying it, and I was not paying enough attention to what was happening in the game. I just saw the puck go in and was trying not to curse out loud.
It was Anton Lundell, it looks like, from the legend Brad Marchand. Yeah, this has certainly been the most exciting game in this series thus far in a penalty-ridden game, but we can hop a bit more on it here in a little bit. And of course, everyone, we'll give you live updates if anything else interesting happens, which this has been admittedly the most interesting game in this series. But first, Dom, I wanted to hop back on the IIHF World Championship train here. And I just have a couple bullet points here that I think all need to be addressed, some kind of going in tandem with each other. So I think before we get to the history making at the win here, I think it is appropriate to start with the massive upset that occurred at the IIHF World Championships. But Dom, would you care to enlighten the audience one more time where the IIHF World Championship was being held this year and why it's a big deal?
Absolutely, Corey. And when last we spoke, I had just introduced the quarterfinals, what those would be. Here we are just a week later, and we have a champion. And I can't wait to talk us through the 3 rounds. So this year, the World Championships were actually co-hosted, by both Sweden and Denmark. And so something important to note was that in the quarterfinal round, both of those teams, no matter how the bracket seeding, anything worked out, both of them would be enabled to play on their ice in the quarterfinals. However, for the semifinals and the finals, those were played in Stockholm. But for the game between the Canadians, and I don't mean Montreal, no, I mean Canada, and the Danes, that was played on Danish ice. And wow, what a late surprise of a game that one was.
Yes, how little time was left. I believe the game was tied, correct me if I'm wrong, going into the final minute of the game when the Danes took the lead with... Oh, yes, go ahead.
Not only was the game tied, with less than 3 minutes left at a total of 2:36 remaining, was when Frederick Dichow, I think. Dichow
I saw
for
his
Denmark.
name. It was kind of hard. It was kind of a hard one.
Yeah. Well, he was pulled, and some 19 seconds later, they scored with the goalie pulled to tie the game with just over 2 minutes left. With less than 3 minutes left, Canada was up 1-0, folks. The Danes pull the goalie, and it's Nikolai Ehlers, who is expected to get a massive contract in this upcoming offseason. If you didn't listen to our episode last week, go listen to it. Talk a little bit about him. But he was able to score the goal to tie it up with 2:17 left. And then, yes, you are correct. It was with 49 seconds left that Nick Olesen scored to give Denmark the lead.
Yes. Quite the stunner. Who was in goal for Canada that game? I didn't get the chance to watch it, but I did obviously see that.
Both of our favorite. If I just say that,
the
do you have a picture?
Crushing.
No.
Oh, was
not our actual favorite.
It was Poopy Pants.
It was our
Bennington?
sarcastic. Yeah, it's our sarcastic favorite.
And, you know, I have to give him credit. He's a big game player. He showed up a lot in these playoffs, and he shows up on the international stage evidently as well. But that's just one of those moments, I feel like, where we always talk about anybody on any given day, and that's what happened for the Danes. I also did not know that Nikolai Ehlers was Danish, so I learned something new today. But I think
the Danes got a boost in the second half, and you can see the difference
between
when he was available versus before then. I did not realize he was a Dane either. But if you go back all the way to the round robin and pool play, there was a stark difference as soon as he became available on the roster. His impact was made throughout the.
And it's interesting that they've been able to add NHL players as they've kind of become available, because obviously in the Four Nations, they were kind of making up rules on the fly, and it was like you could add guys, then you couldn't add guys, and it was kind of an up and down thing. So I was not aware that for IIHF, when players were available, they were able to inject them into the roster. And again, it just shows what a difference that NHL talent can make. And yes, Canada is pretty much exclusively made up of NHL talent, but obviously the Danes still had some in there. And don't forget, this is still a pro hockey team. Yes, the NHL is the best, but it's not like these guys that they're playing are slouches. It is a world championship. These are still the best that nation has to field. So, you know, anybody on any given day, and the Danes clearly had that home crowd support behind them, and it probably mattered a little bit in this scenario. So it's a tough loss for Canada, who I think probably would have won the tournament otherwise. Although who knows, maybe USA would have given them a run for their money, although that final game probably would have been a bit more scoring heavy rather than just 1-0, but we'll get to that here in a second. But I just wanted to pivot for a moment and just reflect on, I think we joked about this, but it might be true that the Canada locker room was probably destroyed, and it mostly came from the ire of Nathan MacKinnon, who I am convinced is about to go on the most rage fight-fueled redemption arc that has ever been seen in hockey. I think this offseason has made this motherfucker so unbelievably angry that he's going to come in and score like 165 points next season.
I think I sent you a message to the effect of that Nathan MacKinnon in the locker room after that game is the closest Canada as a nation has been to firing a nuclear weapon, and I stand by it. He would have gone ballistic.
Yeah. I mean, ultimate competitor, and hockey is a game that is built on emotions, and as we always say, he hates losing. I hate seeing him lose, obviously, as an Avalanche fan. And I can't imagine that that's easy, especially when it's an upset. And I'm not saying that it was easy for them to just walk right on into the finals. It's still you still have to play the game. You're not just granted the finals just because you're Team Canada. But I mean, that's what makes events like these so exciting, though, is when you have moments like these, especially when it's the hosting team that, you know, you don't hear about the Danish international hockey team a whole lot. I don't know how much further they made it after this win, Dom. Do you happen to know?
I do, and they unfortunately did not make it further because, unlike Canada, the Swiss did have a march right to the final. They absolutely beat down on the Austrians 6-0. and then sent the Danes home from Stockholm 7-0. So the Swiss walked into the finals on a 13-0 goal scoring run. So they did have it pretty easy. They went on a march that I think Switzerland versus Canada would have been quite the dogfight, quite the high scoring game probably.
Yes.
But the Danes, nonetheless, they still finish fourth for making it to the Final Four. I guess I've spoiled that they did play in the bronze medal game and unfortunately did not win for the Danes. But Canada only finishes one spot behind overall, finishing as the best of the quarterfinals, take home 5th place.
Which is just crazy to think about. And I do want to circle back real quick just before we move on. You all think I'm kidding? You don't watch enough Avalanche hockey. Nathan MacKinnon is one of the most determined motherfuckers I think I have ever bore witness to in my life. Like, he has David Goggins levels of commitment towards what he does. This isn't a joke. Nathan MacKinnon does not take these kinds of things lightly, and hockey is the ultimate team sport. Don't get me wrong. But there is a lot of individual contribution that Nathan MacKinnon does for his team and for himself. It truly, truly would not surprise me if he had one of his best offensive years in his career this next year, especially when the points in the games matter the most. So, despite the fact that I don't want him to lose, this is certainly fuel onto his ever-burning fire. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I feel like it's a cherry bomb on top of his fire because he already had a massive fire going after the playoffs. So to have a chance to go play some hockey, keep his game going, he had a great tournament overall.
He did.
And so to lose that in that fashion, both of those are going to combine to absolutely next year. And I agree. I'm excited to see what he does. Hopefully we see him for all 82 games and put up per game, like you're saying, do 160.
I'm telling you, I really think he's about to do that. But moving along, obviously Canada went home early. But you know, we all live here in the good old US of A. So Dom, who came in first and why does that matter?
Well, let me tell you the journey of not only who, but how. Because in what I would have thought would be a tough quad, you had Sweden versus the Czech Republic, the defending IIHF World Champions, and then the US versus Finland. So these were some great quarterfinal matchups. Both the US and Sweden won their games 5-2 to meet in the semifinals, where the US absolutely slapped down on Sweden with a 6-2 victory. It was not as close as one might have thought or hoped going in. That set up a gold medal game between the USA and Switzerland. And mind you, Switzerland beat the USA in pool play. They were I think they were the only team in this entire tournament to give the US a loss. So this was a team that the US had already played, had already lost to. This is a really great match. It was a high scoring match the first time. Corey, this game went to overtime. The final score was 1-0. And I have never seen 3v3 hockey played for a 20-minute overtime, and that's what they were doing.
Is that how they do it?
They played 3v3 overtime sudden death. It was unique, to say the least.
But it's not just 5 or 10, it's 20?
It was a full 20
that
put on the clock.
That has to be exhausting. Oh my goodness. I mean, you just have to be cycling guys continuously. That's brutal. Oh my God.
Yes, luckily for the for teams, not so much for Switzerland, but for the U.S., they were able to score in less than 5 minutes of that time. So they put everyone out of their misery and took home the championship. But why does this matter? You might think of, and when we talk about the Olympics, and when you think of the U.S. and Canada and the four nations, you'd think the U.S. has won this championship a lot. But no, this is the first time the USA has won a standalone world championship since 1933. It has been 92 years, and the Sharks' own Coach Warsofsky led Team USA to that victory with, another Shark on there, Will Smith, having 8 points in the tournament, I believe it was. An amazing, amazing occurrence and great for Sharks fans everywhere. And I would just like to recognize that and shout that out because it's something I can be happy about. And those of us who've been suffering at the bottom of the league, we can all rejoice of the future. Our coach has proven himself at this international level. We can have that greater sense of relief and patience with him through this region.
The Fresh Prince of San Jose getting it done. But I did want to say, one, I did not know Warsofsky was an American. I thought he was from some other European country. It sounded like he had an accent whenever I heard him talk. So evidently I was wrong. Did not know that. I mean, especially with the name Warsofsky, it almost sounds like Polish or something like that. But
that's the beauty of the melting pot, man.
Yeah, truly. I mean, that is the glory of the US of A. But I remember we had a conversation where, you liked Warsofsky, but there was still some of that lingering doubt in your mind. Like, okay, can this be the guy? And I think this is a really great indicator that when he does have that high level of talent at his disposal, which the USA had a fucking great roster at this tournament, looking at some of the guys who were there, he can get it done. And you have to respect that. It wasn't always perfect. It was a little shaky sometimes, but I mean, he earned them the big win, which is what you're ultimately looking for. You don't have to win every game, but you got to win the ones that matter. And that's what he did. So I really have to throw a lot of respect out his way. And, I think that's, as you said, a very optimistic look for the Sharks going into the future here.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about the future. And you put it there perfectly. When the Sharks actually have the talent reloaded, when Celebrini and Smith have a few years under their belt and are fully rounded NHLers and not just rookies, this is going to be quite exciting to watch out in San Jose. The games are going to get expensive soon, folks, so take advantage of the tickets while they're cheap now in this upcoming season. Really quickly, I wanted to pivot back because I said something about the 92 years back to 1933. It's worth mentioning that I said the first standalone World Championships gold because technically Olympic gold medals actually did double as World Championships at points in time. So the US did, for example, win hockey double gold in 1960. But as a specific IIHF World Championship that is not in the scope of the Olympics from that period from 1924 to 1968, this was the first win in 92 years because post 1968 the championships were still held separately from the Olympics. So either way, 65 versus 92 years, long time since the US have won. So something important there about that, not just Warsofsky and the Sharks, but as a team, what else would you expect in the year we've had? Zach Werenski, before they were presented the trophy, when they all had their medals on, he ran off the ice quickly and grabbed a Johnny Gaudreau and put that out in front. The U.S., just like they did at the Four Nations, playing Mr. Gaudreau, and it was another beautiful sight, and they finally got him the win that they had sought for.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to bring up next. And also that Zach Werenski himself was the one who ran off and got it for, his Columbus teammate. So that was a really cool moment to see that really you didn't see much of the trophy. You just saw a lot of that Gaudreau jersey. And I would like to point out that Guy Gaudreau threw the first pitch at a Phillies game. So he is still getting a lot of love from the sports community and now even outside the hockey community. So love to see that for him. He deserves all the love in the world along with the rest of the Gaudreau family. But this was a massive win because Columbus wasn't quite able to make the playoffs this year, obviously, despite a very, very solid effort on their part. But this is, you can't be disappointed that the US won here, whether, you're a citizen or not, just due to that story. I mean, it was great to see them still continuing to honor Johnny Gaudreau, who obviously was a part of a lot of U.S. national teams. So that was really great.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the game winner as well. It was Tage Thompson.
Yes.
Getting on a break to get the golden goal for the 1-0 victory. There's truly no more golden of a goal than that it is the decider in overtime, especially when it was the only goal scored. So huge moment for the young man. And I mean, just really exciting to get to see talked about the NHLers and how some of these teams can reload, but all these guys are really good. I think we got to see some young talent from some of these other nations that we might not have otherwise seen because they're not at the NHL level yet, or they're still playing in their home country in those leagues. So I thought it was really great to see some of these other players from across the board, and a guy like Tage Thompson is still on the younger side, be able to step up and have a big impact in the big moments.
Yeah, and I had not seen the goal, so I actually just pulled it up here really quickly to give it a watch, man. It's always tough because there's always a side that loses, and it's tough. It's tough to see the side that loses, but you always feel really happy for the side that wins. But it's always hard when it's a win that's that a win and a loss that's that close, because when you're a goaltender, you've made all those saves on both sides. It's an absolute duel to the death. I didn't know. Is that Matt Dumba? Is Matt Dumba a Dane? No way. No, that was not Matt Dumba. There's no way. I don't believe that. He just looks a lot like Matt Dumba. Anyway, point remains though that's it's a tough loss, but I mean I think it's also a great win as well. Okay, these oh my god, these poor Swiss fans. I'm gonna stop watching this. This is brutal. Holy crap. Okay, but still a great goal by Tage Thompson. Dom, I have to go and grab myself a bowl of the food that I prepared. So while I am doing that, I have one final bit here, because you kind of made reference to it earlier, but would you mind talking about the silver and bronze medal match, which obviously is the same match? So who came in second, and third?
So actually, the championship, it is the gold and the silver match that is the same. So
You know
Switzerland.
what I mean.
Go get your food.
Okay.
So Switzerland did take home the silver hardware for going on that dominant run to the final, still having a 13-1 goal differential in those knockout rounds. Unfortunately, the one was that death shot from the U.S. in overtime that sent them home with silver instead of gold. Truly not a Cinderella, but truly a great run to the tournament by Switzerland. Well-deserved silver. Like I think I said it at one point, but they certainly deserved this in a way that the Czechs went on a run last year. It was the Swiss this year. And it was on the back of their goalkeeper, Giannoni, Leonardo Giannoni. Sorry, I had that backwards. It is Leonardo Giannoni. He had a 95.33, so a 953 save percentage and 0.99 goals allowed against per game with 4 shutouts. He was not only the top goalkeeper, but the MVP of the entire tournament, really the backbone, what made Switzerland so successful. Your top defender actually went to America's own Zach Werenski with 6 points and a +9 through the tournament. The top forward was awarded to David Pastrnak with 15 points and a +7 for the Czechs. And joining these fellows on the All-Star team was Dean Kukin for the Swiss with 9 points, and Elias Lindholm, Sweden, with 14 points, and Nick Olsson for the Danes with 12 points. So quite the team of talent there. But again, I don't know Dean Kukin very well, so I'm not sure if he plays in the NHL. I would have to follow up on that one. But really, really great goaltending is the storyline here, and what I was trying to get to first, and I wanted to recognize all the other stars, if you will, because that is what propelled Switzerland's success. In the bronze medal match between Sweden and Denmark, I kind of already hinted at it, but Sweden was able to win on their home ice this time around and having no issue with the Danes to win 6-2. So we had some closer games. I mean, the closest games of the entire knockout round came in that gold medal game between USA and Switzerland, and that quarterfinals game between Denmark and Canada is the only one separated by a goal between the two teams. Every other game had a differential of at least 3 or so even at this level with all these great teams, sometimes one team just had their night go better and go their way. But yeah, I just wanted to recognize that Swiss goaltending, because that was insane. That was incredible. It was really, like I said, what propelled the teams to greatness and allowed their offense to play free. They don't always get enough credit, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see them receive that attention that they deserve, because the Swiss do have a lot of good players like Kevin Fiala, Nino Niederreiter. So Those are guys I haven't mentioned yet. Timo Meyer, even another former Shark in there. So glad to see them get the recognition they deserve and come home with silver, since they could not best the U.S. when it mattered.
Yeah, I just realized how little sense it made for my original statement. Yeah, the fucking silver and bronze match, that's the same match, and then whoever loses in the gold medal game, you just get nothing. You just fucking get nothing. Fuck you, I guess. Yeah. Sorry everyone. I have been so out of it lately. Whenever I've driven somewhere, like even if I've driven there 1,000 times, my directions have been all gobbledygooked. I've just been an absolute space case lately. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Well, I do hope you're doing all right and not smelling any burnt toast there, bro. Um, but yeah, so overall, great tournament. I know it was difficult sometimes to watch. You had to have NHL Network for a certain setup for streaming. So it was not ideal also with the timing of the games being in Denmark and Sweden. And we're always happy to see other nations host these World Championship games, although I do have to say, as a respectful call in to the IIHF committee, please try to actually host games in areas that will be able to fill the stadiums. There were many of these games where the stadiums were not full, which I feel like was a bit of a disappointment to the level of talent and quality of play we were able to see on the ice from the games that I was at least able to bear witness to.
That is disappointing. I didn't know that because I obviously didn't get to see any of them, so that is disappointing.
Yeah, and it wasn't every game, and obviously if Denmark was playing at home, Sweden playing at home, it was packed out. But it seemed like it was either difficult to attend or didn't draw the right level of attention, so I'm not sure how that can be improved. But just highlighting the fact that this play and the quality of the tournament was higher than I think, and so it deserved better. These players deserve better, in my opinion.
Yes, certainly agree. Well, thank you, Dom. I appreciate you doing such a diligent job of keeping up with the tournament. Certainly much better than I've been able to in this recent time. And I know how busy you are personally, so I appreciate you putting in the extra time and effort. And everybody, you all better say thank you to Dom as well, or I'll find you.
It's my pleasure. Don't worry, everyone. He doesn't have to go fighting you, but I'm happy to do it. I always love to watch hockey, and I hope my love of watching all the hockey, all the places everywhere, I hope that it helps rub off on you and that you find time to watch some more when you can.
You rubbing people, Dom? Is that what you're saying right now? You rubbing people?
You said that, not me.
Well, you were talking about rubbing, so I don't know. All right, I'm not going to get this podcast canceled in its first season. Are you ready to move on to conference finals, Dom, or is there anything else you'd like to talk about with regards to the IIHF?
No, I think we've tied up the IIHF in a nice little bow there, but do we have to proceed to the conference finals? Because I have been
it's our job.
Mildly bored, honestly. I've been mildly bored. Like, I love hockey, but I'm a little sick of these matchups.
Yes, certainly so. Well, I thought I was gonna just do bullet points, but I ended up kind of going off on some thought trains here. So I will share that, and we can dive into anything in more detail should you care to do so. But I actually entitled. Oh yeah. Also, I meant to say, for anybody wondering, we're not like extending the letter I in IIHF. It is double IHF. So IIHF. Just in case that was confusing, because I know we sometimes talk a little quickly. We string words together. So just wanted to make that clarification. But moving forward here, I titled this section Conference Finals Domination. And domination, it certainly has been. Here we are a week later, and as these series have gone on, I began to doubt if we'd make it to Game 5 in either of them. Somehow we have. Carolina has broken their Eastern Conference Final losing streak at 15 games, although it came too little too late, as the odds of them winning this series are now next to 0. But Corey, you may say, both Dallas and Carolina are down 3-1. You can come back from that. Yes, I agree. But what do I always tell you, folks? It's about context. Dallas won game one with a late third period surge to take an early series lead before losing the next three to at least insert themselves into the series, whereas Carolina nearly got swept before eking out a win in game four. Excuse me, these two situations are drastically different, despite the fact that both teams mentioned now have to win 3 games in a row to try and win, whereas their opponents get 3 tries to actually end the series, and they only must win once. But history and math tell us who has a better chance, but I can't lie to you when I say I don't think either team down in their respective series has an exceptionally good chance, although it is always improbable, not impossible. Now, some may find this unbelievable, but hockey, at least for me, and Dom has already mentioned, has not been terribly fun to watch as of late, especially when we have an imminent chance to run back last year's finals where I anticipate the same result, i.e. Florida winning. Edmonton and Dallas has at least been somewhat enjoyable, and because it's more of a hate watch than anything. As those who follow on Instagram know, it isn't that we're rooting for Edmonton, but for the downfall of Dallas. Dallas at 5-on-5 has been exposed, and I feel like it's frankly their biggest weakness at this point, and now their biggest strength isn't working for them either, which is their special teams, which they had the second best up to a certain point, but no longer. To expand upon this more, though, Dallas currently has, and Dom, I don't know if you knew this, a minus 12 goal differential, which is the worst of any team still in the playoffs amongst those eliminated as well. So just something interesting there. And for those who may wonder what that is, as I've referenced it a few times, goal differential is a simple equation for goals for minus goals against. A positive differential means you are scoring more goals for your team than getting scored on, and minus is vice versa. Before I continue on here, Dom, I wanted to give you space for any commentary on that, because I actually have some fun math and statistics.
Well, I didn't know about the goal differential. That in itself is a fun statistic. Thank you for bringing that and doing your research. So I appreciate you, man, for finding the time in your busy schedule to go out there and pull the numbers and the stats. I know we're looking to them. I just want to say really quickly that unlike the rest of y'all, I did kind of want the Stars to at least make this a better series. And I know I said that last time, so I don't have to go down that tangent. But last night or 2 nights ago when this comes out on May 27th, that game was close. And Dallas tying the series before going home, if they had done that, they would have every opportunity to flip the momentum on its head. Winning games 4, 5, and 6 in a row is the best chance you're going to have to win 3 straight games in any series, realistically, other than games 1, 2, and or games 2, 3, and 4. Yes. Anyway, I'm kind of losing the plot here. The point is, if Dallas had been able to win on the road when they had every opportunity to in game 4 versus Edmonton, everything changes and they're on level terms and then get to play on home ice. Now they have to go home. No matter what happens, they're still going to be down in this series. So they can't swing the momentum fully in their favor. They have to claw and scrape for their lives. And that's why this 3-1 hole, which I think you're going to go into the statistics here now, Corey. I'll give it back to you. We'll explain why it is such a.
Well, to speak more on that goal, or of their goals, of the 42 goals Dallas has scored this postseason, only 54.76% of them have been at 5-on-5. Well, this is a majority. 38.09% of their goals have come from the power play, which in this series against Edmonton showed up in game 1, but has become virtually nullified since. And that is a large majority of their scoring coming from special teams. Not to mention that Dallas has been shut out 4 times in these playoffs. And in addition to that, they have had 7 games in which they've been limited to a goal or less, which includes those shutouts. Despite Mikko Rantanen's early heroics, they aren't currently being carried by anyone and aren't experiencing balanced scoring throughout the lineup despite their touted depth. Dallas is a talented team, and I won't feel safe or satisfied until they're golfing, as they've proven in these playoffs to be incredibly resilient. I can't lie when I say nothing would bring me greater joy as a fan of a rival team than to watch Edmonton go into Dallas and end their season there.
how about this for stat? I don't want to take it from you if you don't
Nope,
have it.
I don't have it. Go ahead. I'm done with Dallas and Edmonton, so please.
In 17 playoff games, Mikko Rantanen has 21 points. The next closest for Dallas is Thomas Harley with 12.
Yeah, it's probably not good.
So your depth when Rupe Hintz has 11, Granlund, who has showed up in big moments, still only has 10. Those are the only double-digit scorers that are skaters. At this point, when you're deep into the third round, to have only 4 people scoring in double digits and one of them that has nearly double the other 3, or at least double the other 3, that's not good. And they might have like every skater apart from Maverick Bourque when he's been called into play in only 2 playoff games. Every other skater has scored at least a single point in the playoffs, but they're not scoring with any consistency, reliability, and the offense has just dropped off a cliff in this series against Edmonton, which doesn't make sense because Evan Bouchard can't play defense. He's out there as another offensive player. Darnell Nurse, we've talked about being overpaid. Like, it doesn't make sense to me how this offense could have been humming and drumming against the Avs defense, which is just completely and 100% statistically better than Edmonton's. And I mean, please, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Avalanche defense has to be better than this Edmonton one, and yet Dallas has decided to take a nap against this Edmonton one instead.
I certainly would like to imagine that it is. And again, people talk about matchups. Sometimes it really is just matchups. And we talked about this before, that I'm fairly convinced that what Dallas is to Colorado, Edmonton is to Dallas. It's just a hard matchup for the Stars. And while I'm kind of shitting on the Stars here and their ability to kind of keep playing at this moment in time, I mean, the Stars are a good team, and they've kind of run into Edmonton at this point, and it's been a massive stopgap for them. And hockey is not always linear in the sense that, Dallas beat Colorado and Edmonton beat Dallas, therefore Edmonton could also beat Colorado. That's not true. That's not really true in hockey. Sometimes it's just different matchups, and I believe that if Colorado played Edmonton, I think it'd be a very different series than what we're seeing right now. Dallas is a bad matchup for Colorado, and Edmonton's a bad matchup for Dallas. And it's simple.
Well, and who knows? Maybe Colorado is a bad matchup for Edmonton. In past years, I would have thought that was the case. And you know that this is what is this conversation here is tied to an argument that's been spurred. There's a big push, and if you don't mind me taking this quick detour,
please.
There is a lot of calls to change, revamp, improve the playoff format instead of doing this based on your divisions where we have the 1, 2, 3 wild card, to actually go to a ranked 1 versus 8 format. Do you know that actually this matchup between Dallas and Edmonton, this in a seeded 1 to 8 format would have been a first round game, a 3 seed Dallas against a 6 seed Edmonton. Colorado would have opened against the Kings in the first round, and the winners of these matches would have played each other. If the playoffs were set up differently like this, we could potentially have a better matchup and see Colorado versus Edmonton in the second round, and not have to have Colorado and Dallas just have a brawl every year just to see who can go on to the second round and struggle after that if they make it second, right? So just something that I think is worth mentioning, and I honestly, having seen this and seen the potential for it, I would love to see that happen where the teams are actually ranked 1 to 8, so it's not just within your division, but within your whole of your conference, because I think that truly gives the better teams a better rank. Like in the East, the Devils would not have been like the 3 seed getting pummeled by Carolina. They would have been all the way down at the 7 seed and would have opened up against Toronto, shifting all the matchups. This Carolina-Florida series that we're seeing now as well would have been the 4-5 matchup in the East. So shakes up the entire playoffs where these third round series could have been first round series, and I think would have been better for all of us had that been the case.
See, these are the what ifs that I do like to ponder. And I know their justification for the current playoff format is rivalries. And my God, have they made some. I have never hated a team more than I hate the fuck-ass Dallas Stars, but I agree. It could definitely lead to some more interesting and unseen matchups if you had that 1-8 system. Obviously, we have no power to change it, but I mean, Gary Bettman's retired in a few years, everybody, so just hold on.
Well, if they want rivalries too, teams are going to get rivalries in their division anyway. These have been built over years. The NHL's been around a long enough period of time that the rivalries are established in some places, and you'll still have those like in-season, regular season rivalry games. You play the teams in your division more than the teams in your conference, more than the teams across the entire league. So you already have that established. I feel like it would be better if you want to establish new rivalries, set up the possibility that these teams will play each other in the playoffs, and depending on how they finish, they might still end up playing each other a few years in a row. Like Carolina and Florida have been in very similar spots the last couple of years on their record. Probably could have had this matchup a few times. I mean, I know we wouldn't have had this, Battle of Florida and Battle of Ontario and stuff, but tell me that the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Ottawa Senators would not have been a great series to watch, and we could have seen more of the Lightning. And that Toronto we would have all been on board to see them easily march past the Devils and get the next game. So some things wouldn't change. Obviously, Washington would have still played Montreal as the 1-8. Similarly, Winnipeg would have still played Seattle. But I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting because eventually, if you're as good as a team, you earn the right to then play your division rival and settle it in the second round. So we don't have to perseverate on this topic too long, but it's just something. I said it. It's something that I think should be talked about, or we should all petition campaign for either before Gary Bettman retires or after, because I think it would make it a lot more and exciting.
I think there are definitely good arguments for and against it, as there are with a good majority of things. So honestly, I kind of have mixed opinions about it. So I would love to see, I think, arguments for both. So if anybody hears this episode now or in the future, because honestly, I'm always open to listening or reading things about that, give me your best reasons why we should transition to the 1-8 system, or why we should keep the current system that we have. So give us your best arguments, and maybe at some point in the future we'll read them and we'll discuss them on the pod. So give us what you think. We care. We want to know what you think, truly. So yeah.
Especially now as we start to round out this first season, we'll have an off season too, and we've talked about possibly doing a special around the draft to do some post-draft analysis or something, but you'll have a couple of months break from us and hearing our voices, and during that time, we're not going to necessarily be resting. Just like the players in the offseason, we're not necessarily going to be training our physical bodies, but we really want to work on new ideas and continue to improve the podcast, and your ideas are a huge part of that, so we can make this better. You that are listening and are the fans of this, so please do give us your best ideas, because we're happy to continue evolving and bringing your content onto the pod, but bringing you content that you want to hear.
I could not have said it better myself, Dom. Thank you. I was quickly chewing because I promised my mom she wouldn't hear me eating on the podcast. You didn't hear me, Ma. I'm fine. But yes, jokes aside, I could not have said it better myself, Dom. So thank you. And he's exactly right. Whenever we get the chance to interact with you, though, like you said, we have an email, we have an Instagram. So instead of sending me, or not me, but sending us hate comments or hate messages, tell us what you would like to hear, because we're happy to deliver to you what you want to hear. But sometimes those messages are pretty funny, so we'll keep it up. No, all press is good press. Florida and Carolina. Florida and Carolina is simply pain. The only reason Carolina still has a positive goal differential is because of how bad they beat up on New Jersey and Washington. Watching the series makes it seem like Florida and Carolina play in two totally different leagues. This is NHL versus AHL right now. Game 4 was the first time it looked like Florida just took their foot off the gas. It wasn't so much that Carolina themselves had a great game, but that Florida had a bad one. The dominance is so clear that it is genuinely unfun to watch because of the lack of competitiveness in any of the games. It's also because while I hope for Carolina, my team and my heart is in the West, so the least the East could do is be entertaining. Everyone talked about Dallas being a team of destiny, and I thought them nigh unstoppable, but if they met this Florida Panthers team, I am not confident that they would be able to overcome it. Bill Zito, the Panthers GM, has done a spectacular job at filling any holes that the team experienced due to their cup tax last year, and they haven't even missed a beat. This team arguably seems even more dominant than the one from last year. It also helps that everyone, literally everyone in their lineup is scoring. Not to mention every defenseman has a minimum a goal, and most more than that. We also have to talk about Bob, who in his first 8 games had allowed 24 goals, and in the last 5, when I collected this stat, had allowed 6. The longer the playoffs go, the stronger Bob becomes. And I had my doubts early on, but no more. He is a Stanley Cup and Vezina winner for a reason, but really, he has a lot of easy nights just with how much Florida helps limits the shots and scoring opportunities.
Well, they're a physical team.
Yes.
They like to play physical, and we've talked about how that physical can cross a line and become unnecessarily aggressive and heinous at points. But as the playoffs drag on, the team that is physically and mentally prepared for that and is able to keep going and play through that level of attrition is going to have an advantage. If you're throwing more hits, if you're ready to hit and be hit, and you're just going to play through it and don't care and just have that sheer will, the later the playoffs get, it seems to suit their style of play better. And early on, when all the teams are a bit more level and haven't had the injuries happen yet, everyone's coming off the same 82-game season, it can struggle. That's my theory. And it could take time for any team to settle in. I think Bobrovsky, like you said, as it goes on, he is clearly improved. I just have to say I'm frustrated. I didn't pick him this year. And then in my second chance bracket, I felt like, hey, maybe this year will be the year of Carolina versus Dallas, and my bracket for 5 years straight can finally hit. And they're both just shitting the bed in the finals yet again, and I'm upset about it. Like, I told myself I wasn't going to get my hopes up, and then they got my fucking hopes up, and now I'm getting let down. So this roller coaster ride of emotion, I'm not having a good time, and I'm upset with that.
Well, what's interesting to me is it felt like in the first few games, like games 1 through 3, Carolina was trying so hard to not play Carolina's game, but to play like Florida. And I don't know why, because what had made Carolina so good was playing the system that is their strength. High shot volume, heavy defense, and Frederick Anderson just playing out of his gourd. But for some reason, they went out there trying to fight Florida every shift, and that's exactly what Florida wants you to do. This game is the first one in the entire series that's actually been somewhat exciting and competitive, and it's been riddled with penalties, although they haven't had actually that much of a sway on the game. But what I said was, interestingly enough, we've seen a game like this from Carolina before, as a matter of fact. Last year, against the New York Rangers in round 2, where they were leading and got defeated by a Chris Kreider hat trick. So I can't say that I saw this coming, but I saw this coming.
And I think that's a good point brought up there. But you're right. Their game is defense. Their game is shot volume, shots from the point. And they've even on the power play just been dancing, trying to get the perfect opportunity. They've gotten out of their rhythm, out of their game, too much into the physical game and not into their smooth game. Something that needs to be recognized somehow, in spite of all the goals scored. Did you know after game 4 that Jacob Slavin had a +3 goal difference?
I did. For those of you who don't know, we've talked about him before. Jacob Slavin is the best defensive defenseman in the NHL, and he continues to prove it every day. In a series where his team has let in 5-6 goals every game, he has, played out of his fucking mind. Unfortunately, he can't be on the ice, for 60 minutes, but he can be on for 30. So I guarantee you Florida's not scoring in those 30 minutes, but unfortunately, they score in the other 30.
Yeah, in the other 30. Well, in the first 3 games, he was only playing around 20. It wasn't until game 4 when they got the shutout that he actually played nearly 30 minutes. I think it was 28 minutes exactly. Yeah. So really, really impressive. I don't know. I think what I was trying to say there is this is their strength. When they actually had him out there for longer, and yes, that's one man, and it's a lot of wear and tear on a single guy.
He's a game breaker, though. He is a
game breaker. And when they're doing their system and he is there playing his best and the most he possibly can, they shut down Florida. And yeah, Florida was missing some players with injury, but they played like shit. Like you said, in game 4, Florida played like shit. But part of it was because he's a game breaker and kind of pushed them into playing like shit. And the rest of the Carolina defense, they're not Jacob Slavin, but I think they've underwhelmed and underperformed to expectations. And something else is Sebastian Aho has underperformed to expectations until tonight when he scored the first 2 goals for Carolina. He really has been a bit silent in the series. So they need him to stay alive in this game to keep them alive in the games to come, because that, like you're saying, high shot volume and defense. Well, the defense showed up in game 4. Can the high shot volume show up here, like for the rest of this game 5 and in any more games to come, if there are any more games? Because that'll be the difference if they can play Carolina hockey.
And that's what's so disappointing about this game. If you're a Carolina fan, Florida had an awful first period in this game, like genuinely awful, because both of Carolina's goals scored by Aho were off of Florida turnovers, where they basically passed the puck right to him. And then he got behind their D and was able to score the goal. Oh my God, Carolina has just tied the game as I said this. What the fuck? Seth Jarvis has tied the game. All right, everybody.
He has showed up. And also, I don't know if you check your chat. I was typing it to you because I didn't want to spoil it. I was just slowly typing it.
G-O-A-L, tie game. Well, everybody, this game has gotten a lot more interesting, but it does not take away, I think, from what I'm trying to say here, in that Carolina had a fantastic first period, and wow, and this is off of another Florida turnover. And then he's just left
that's
alone
something we
right
haven't
in front.
talked enough about. Florida has not turned the puck over a lot.
No.
And that's key to a championship winning roster. And we don't always see that. Turnovers aren't like a stat that you track the same way in hockey as you do in basketball, for example. So it's something it's a harder stat to recognize, or you have to go diving deep into the world of statistics to find it. But that's a huge factor the later these series go on, is your ability to hold on to the puck. And I think that's part of where Florida's strength of being physical is they can be physical on the puck and not lose possession when that's happening. Carolina cannot play that game. They are flashier. They are fancier. They have great passing. So I think that ties in perfectly to this conversation of Carolina needs to play their game of passing and being offensively fluid, as opposed to being physical and trying to stay on the puck with the hard contact.
Well, and, that's what I wanted to say, is that they fought so hard in that first period to make those turnovers matter, take a 2-goal lead, which was great. And then in the second period, Florida, in, the span of 20 seconds, not only gets a power play goal, which had failed to break through over the last 3 games and finally did, but then gets the other one to tie it, and then eventually takes the lead in the second period. I mean, yes, obviously the game is tied now, but hell, Florida's been kicking Carolina's ass so bad that Brad Marchand is eating cookie dough blizzards in between periods. I mean, come on.
The Rat King. Have you seen that new tradition?
Yes,
Brad Marchand has come home. Like, how was he not always a Florida Panther? Like, the biggest rat of them all, having the players for Florida shoot rats at his feet. It's pretty funny. If you guys haven't seen the clip, go online and look at it. But that goal, that tying goal, has woken up Carolina a bit. They've gotten a little feisty here since that goal. This is going to be an exciting final 10 minutes.
What a hit at the blue line. Yeah. We'll have to see where this goes, because if it goes to overtime, my money is on Florida. They are certainly an overtime team. Oh my goodness. Oh,
that's what I'm talking about. It was close.
This is exciting, everyone. Like I said, this has been the most interesting game in the entire series. Thank God. See, if every game was like this, this would be way more fun, but they haven't. And that's why it's been very disappointing. So yeah, this has been good. I did want to circle back. I totally meant to say, because you're talking about Dallas's lack of double-digit scorers. The Colorado Avalanche in their championship run had 8, by the way, with 4 players over 20 points, and they're all exactly who you expected to be. So just wanted to point that out. And interestingly enough, Gabe Landeskog and Bowen Byram had the highest plus-minus in that run with a plus 15. And they only had 2 players who were minus. Wow. That was such a stacked fucking team.
Nice to reminisce. Also, Bo Byram to the Sharks this offseason? Maybe?
Perhaps
Possibly?
so. He has officially requested the trade. I have two more additional notes here. First and foremost, just something fun about the Oilers. The last two times that the Oilers have made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2006 and 2024, they have lost to either the Carolina Hurricanes in 2006 or the Florida Panthers in 2024, the two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. Funny stuff. We'll see what happens.
I would say it's a fun fact, but it's clearly not fun for them.
It's not fun for them. Final thing about the conference finals, which I don't know how I didn't fit it in my earlier ramblings. Oh yeah, I meant to say, to end my full ramble, I would like to end it with a quote from my grandma. Quote, "It's not about who wants it more. That's a crock of crap. It's about who gets the looks and the breaks. Everyone is out there playing the best that they can."
That's actually a good point. There is that hockey luck, puck luck, and everyone is doing the best that they can, and sometimes things just don't go your way. We saw some of those fluky goals in a lot of the first series games. Obviously, there is an element of where you make your own luck, but that is a very wise statement.
And she is not the most hockey savvy, so she's been learning, because obviously we watch hockey endlessly in my house. So there's that. Final point on these conference finals. Stuart Skinner, make it make sense. Who are you? Fucking, you're either Martin Brodeur or you're Alexander Georgiev. What? Stand you? What?
It really makes no fucking sense. It's like he has both of them in his brain fighting for the control. One just takes over for a given day.
Well, for a while, up until recently, he either had a save percentage below, it was like .848, or a shutout. No in between. What? And now he has like a .9, like 5.6 or something. It's insane. He's given up a goal to Dallas over the last two games. So Dallas can't score. Oh, the power play can't score. Oh, hold on. Okay, scramble. Every net battle is a scramble, everyone. But yeah, just I had to genuinely give credit to Stuart Skinner. Because again, I don't like the Oilers. I don't like him, but I like them right now. Good job, Stu. Keep doing the do, buddy. Keep doing the do.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I think I'm just more baffled. The thing that it reminds me of is, do you know the name Martin Jones?
Yes, the Sharks goaltender led them to a couple really legendary playoff runs.
Yeah, former Sharks goaltender. He was the one who got them all the way to the Cup final, playing some really miraculous hockey that season.
Yeah.
Dropped off a fucking cliff the next season and played awful to the point of being bought out. And he had periods of being absolutely awful beforehand. So, Stuart Skinner, you are triggering some PTSD Martin Jones reminders for me right now with how he's playing.
I see.
With just this insane playoff run, playing out of his board, out of his tree, out of his goddamn mind. He's just all over the place, and it doesn't make sense. And then he takes a nap and gives up like 4 goals on 8 shots. So fuck no. I'm honestly so baffled. I don't know
because
myself when it comes to him.
I can't even say it's a situation where Edmonton's defense has been good, because it really, it hasn't. Dallas has been out shooting them most games. Like, Dallas is pushing the issue. They just aren't scoring. And Stuart Skinner's been there to answer the damn bell. Oh, wait. I'm seeing a fuck from Dom. Hold on, everybody. Let's lock back in here, because I'm behind. Dom's saying fuck. Why is he saying fuck, everyone? There's a battle in the neutral zone. It was a turnover after turnover. Another turnover. Not seeing nothing. I don't know what Dom's talking about, everyone. Hold on.
Wait till you see some dancing in the corner.
Okay, hold on. We're watching. Bobrovsky's fielding the puck behind the net. Pass ahead. Looks like it's to Sam Reinhart at center ice. taken by Alexander Barkov behind the net. He does a sick move in the corner. He dances out in front. What a shot by Carver Verhage! Oh my goodness gracious me! Sasha Barkov to Carver Verhage on the side of Freddie Anderson. Tucks it away at 7:39 of the third period. Florida has regained the lead. It is at risk of sending Carolina home. Oh my goodness, through 3 Carolina Hurricanes in front of Anderson, including Orlov defending Sasha Barkov one-on-one. Beats his man, beats another man in front to get to Verhage, who's being defended by a third Carolina player. It doesn't matter. Frederik Andersen zigged when he should have zagged. Absolutely incredible. Wow.
It was an incredible apple from Barkov. Absolutely perfect. Perfect pass.
You know, Barkov is the Panthers' points leader currently. Their goals leader is also Sam Bennett. So there you go, everyone. That was just wow. That was fucking awesome. Oh, wait. Seeing another text from Dom. Oh, Florida Verhage. Okay. Thank you, Dom.
Yeah, I kept going. Yeah, I know you had the game pulled up, but I was just on a roll. I was typing out "fuck Florida."
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's all I have about these conference finals. Dom, anything else you'd like to illuminate our audience or me about these conference finals, or you just kind of ready for this season to reach its conclusion?
I think I'm honestly starting to be ready for it to reach its end. I'm a little tired. I'm excited for the Cup finals.
Yes.
I'm excited for vacation here in a week's time. So I'm very.
Oh very yes. Hawiwi? Is that coming up?
Hawiwi!
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that was upcoming.
Yeah. So we'll have to bring this to you all listening a day early next week potentially, or I have to leave you on your own, my dear friend.
We could definitely make that work. I forgot that you were leaving, so.
Yeah, but I'll be back a week later, so we'll be back on our regular schedule for our final-ish episode, perhaps, depending on how the Stanley Cup finals are going. But yeah, I think these semifinals, the games have just not been close, exciting. For me, I feel like it's always been one team or the other that really has the upper hand, and we haven't seen a lot of these back and forth games. So I'm very into this game and excited that this Game 5 is showing what I would expect from conference final hockey.
I know.
So I'm hoping the Stanley Cup's better, but I think with how much hockey we've watched, with seeing things like the Four Nations this year with the IIHF World Championships going on, I also think it's fair to feel like a little bit let down by these playoffs. Like, we've seen better playoffs. I'm not saying it's the worst playoffs we've seen in like the last 10 years, but it certainly isn't the best. And that's regardless of any homerism for any one team or another, right? So I just don't know if there's as much, even with the number of games going down where we didn't think there was going to be as much to talk about. I think even so, there doesn't feel like there's as much to talk about.
Yeah, certainly so. I agree. And I think next week, everybody, even if we are going a day early, I anticipate, even if they haven't began, that we will have our Stanley Cup Finals matchup set. Now, I think depending on how everything shapes out, if no Stanley Cup Final games have been played next week, we might actually think about deferring until after Dom is back from vacation, because we do at least want something to talk about, and it helps if games have been played. Obviously, we can always preview the series, but I don't think a lot of previewing even needs to be happening, especially if we get the anticipated matchup of Florida and Edmonton again. I would like to say all the best to Zach Hyman, who I hope is okay. The hit didn't look like anything major, but unfortunately just took a bad kind of hit from Mason March. Not even a bad hit. Like, I hate Mason Marchment, but it was kind of a glancing blow. But Zach Hyman went into surgery today and just evidently something got knocked out of place. So hoping the best for him, but it does sound like his postseason is over, unfortunately.
Yeah, from what I've heard, he will be out 6 months minimum, so he will miss the start of next season as well with the recovery from this injury and from surgery. That's what I heard. I could be mistaken. It could be closer to 3, but from what I heard, the projection was closer to 6, but they didn't say exactly what the injury was.
So Edmonton, to you and your fans, to your team, I as an Avalanche fan can certainly relate, and I hope his recovery is a speedy and a healthy one. I never want any team to win or lose because they are missing a player. So I definitely know how that is. One more thing, Pete DeBoer, you're a bitch going out there complaining about the calls you are not getting. How about the calls you do get from the professional Dallas divers? They have had so many calls go their way with so many chances to make an impact on the game on their special teams. And guess what, Pete? You're just not doing it right now, buddy. I'm sorry. You can fucking bitch about the reffing all you want and bitch about, nasty fucking hits and calls. It's gone both ways. And to get out there and act like you're not the ones doing it is fucking sad. That's all I want to say about that. I don't want to.
Well, yeah, they got
perseverate.
plenty of calls earlier in the playoffs. They've gotten plenty of calls in this series go their way
series.
as well. And, this is, dare I say, classic Pete DeBoer.
And
He goes on this great run. He wins all these game 7s, but his name's not on the cup yet. And, there's some serious questions if he can get for that last hurdle.
And, I'm not saying that the nurse slash on Rope Hintz was good by any means. Clearly it hurt him. I actually thought Rope Hintz dove in the moment trying to get them, a 5-minute major, but it looks like he did actually do some damage. But, thankfully Rope Hintz was not injured long term. He was out of game, which is tough. But even when he was back in the game, the results still ended up being the same. And, Dallas is throwing plenty of dirty hits on their own. They have had plenty of fucking dives. This playoffs have been nasty all around, East and West. So for Pete DeBoer to be out there complaining like his team is not getting calls on certain things is just fucking ridiculous. So
yeah, and this goes back to our problem with the reffing. You have set this tone. Dallas has been physical. They've been diving. So, you helped create this monster. Now you got to play through it. You made your bed. I'm just gonna pivot. Just random thing I learned today.
yeah,
Not that it has anything to do with any of this. But looking to the next year and for all the teams that are out, this is the time of year when they're looking at coaching changes, and we've already addressed some of them. Corey, did you know that the Boston Bruins have a new head coach who happened to be a Sharks player long ago?
I did see that. I didn't see who it ended up being. Did they hire David Quinn?
No, it is. They have Marco Sturm, who will be serving as head coach.
Is that Nico Sturm's dad?
Possible, actually. I'm not fully sure. I need to look into that, but I actually have a Marco Sturm playing card up on my Sharks all-time.
It is not.
Well, that's unfortunate. But he was the head coach for the Ontario Reign, the AHL affiliate of the LA Kings this year, who had a solid season before being eliminated by the San Jose Barracuda in the playoffs for the AHL. So, yeah, just a little fun tidbit I just learned earlier today. Has nothing to do with anything, but
but still very, very cool. Some Sharks relation there. Speaking of AHL, though, you reminded me the Eagles' AHL playoff run unfortunately did come to an end. They went all the way to Game 5 against the Abbotsford Canucks, but unfortunately in Game 5, the Eagles did get blown out 5-0. So it is an unfortunate end to the season for both Colorado franchises. They gave it a good kick at the can, but fortunately, it was clearly not meant to be in that regard. Apparently, a fan threw a chair at the Abbotsford's color commentator, but now it's in dispute if that actually happened. So we're not sure. Either way, something transpired. There was a drunk fan. Drunk fan said he didn't throw the chair after he came forward, and other people in the press box said there was no chair thrown. So I'm not going to speculate either way. Either way, there was an incident, at least of a fan jawing at the Abbotsford Canucks announcer, which is not cool. Let them do their job. They are color commentating. But yeah, just something that happened. But thankfully, obviously, he recognized that that is not representative of Eagles country and their fan base or any of the Colorado Avalanche fan base. So yeah, my guy, you're kind of a bum. Even if you didn't throw the chair, you were still jawing at him, and that's a no-no, my boy. So don't do that.
Yeah, let's be civil. This is a game, and yeah, we want to get really into it, and we want our team to win.
Always.
Abusing the commentators, abusing other teams' fans.
not recommended.
Not recommended. Also, I mean, if you're gonna abuse anybody, please target it towards the zebras. If you're gonna do it to anyone, even then, let's not, because we don't need to encourage them to make things worse or encourage violence in the first place. So you know what?
Let's not
abuse anybody. Leave it on the ice. If you want to say some shit, everybody talks shit at hockey games. That's fine. But please just keep your hands in your pockets, or just, holding on to the beer instead of holding on to other things and trying to throw them.
Yes, exactly. Hold on. Carolina with the good shot on the... Whoa, how did that not go in? Oh, my goodness. Okay,
this is
everybody.
6-on-4 right now. We have
Carolina,
a power play with an empty net.
Yeah, hold on, everybody. We're gonna give you play-by-play here. Carolina taking it down low at the circles, pass it up the middle to Florida, who clears down. Ice misses the empty net, but there is no icing on the power play, so Florida can frankly just fire away without much consequence. It looks like Shane Ghost Bear does have the puck. Carolina has now begun their breakout in through the neutral zone. It is along the near wall here. Carolina got it at the blue line. To the top of the circles, back to the blue line, shot, blocked in front, shot again, blocked again in front. Carolina has maintained possession, shot for the blue line once again. That looks like that was off the post. Going behind the net now, Florida has a hold of it, fires it out of the zone. Looks like Carolina's kept a guy up high. Once again, it looks like it's Gostisbehere just to make sure to try and defend that empty net. This is the season on the line here, everyone. We'll just ride this out here before we get into the players of the week. We'll keep it interesting. Carolina once again at the blue line, pass across at the top of the right-hand circle, pass back up to the blue line again. Shot from the blue line, blocked by Bobrovsky. Circling down on the near boards here. Back up to the blue line to Gostisbehere. Gostisbehere shoots. Power play is about to expire. 5 seconds remaining. Looks like Florida is eating it along the fireboards. Oh, they fired out. Sam Bennett has just been released from the penalty box, and he's got the puck. He tucks it away. It looks like Florida is going back to the Stanley Cup Finals. There are 53 seconds left in the game. Florida has taken a 5-3 lead over the Carolina Hurricanes. They kept it interesting, but unfortunately, I think Florida was just in a different league this series, and Carolina has decided to play their best hockey. As I said earlier, too little, too late. And that is Sam Bennett's, I believe, team leading 11th goal for the team, because he scored earlier tonight. So that should be goal number 11 for Sam Bennett.
Man is going to ask for 10 million plus
10th.
per year 10th. Next year.
Yeah, he's going to pull a Nazem Kadri, honestly. And
he wants a big money contract. And the fact is that free agency next season has so many bigger names for 2026 compared to 2025 free agency. Yeah. So in this year's market, he might actually be able to pull 10 mil a year, which is wild. He should not be getting more than 8, in my opinion, but wow. He's had quite the playoffs, quite the series.
And that is his 9th on the road. He is a road warrior. Speaking of free agents, I was thinking about something, man. The lovely people on the Colorado Avalanche subreddit made me kind of think of something. Dom, is Mikael Granlund a center?
Huh?
He does, in fact, have the capability to play either center or wing.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because, Dallas probably can't afford to bring him back. But, I think he's a very budget-friendly center option who can certainly put up the points and can perform in the playoffs. I'm thinking of a team that maybe is in need of his services right now. because he's starting to get up there in age, but he's still got plenty of juice left in the tank, and I think Dom, that he could contribute to a contending team who is in need of a more consistent second line center. Dom, can you think of a team that's maybe like that could be in need of a Mikael Granlund's services?
Yeah, I can think of one or two, but right now I'm just focused on praying to the hockey gods and all that is good to speak to Mike Greer and tell him to win the bidding war.
Well,
the
player has to say yes also, and I know he loved his time in San Jose, but perhaps since you've tried to poach my players, Dom, on some of our recent discussions, I think it's only fair that I try and poach one of yours, or at least another one. Give us Mikael Granlund. It's a delayed penalty on Florida. Yes, they didn't want to touch it. But give us Mikael Granlund, Dom. I think that'd be great. I want that guy.
Listen,
if Brock Nelson doesn't resign.
To be fair, you got Blackwood first, and I got stuck with Georgiev. Yep. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm already down 2 to y'all. So y'all owe us 2 before I owe you any more, because Georgiev counts as a negative. It was dumping your trash on my lawn.
You can have Kiwi, bro. Just give us Mikael Granlund. I want him now. Only if Brock Nelson doesn't re-sign, though, and there is still a chance. But pretty much, everybody, we may have some more news to talk about here going into June, because the Avalanche are notoriously slow with their off-season work. So we'll see what happens here. But for your players of the week, everybody, at number 3, we have the Florida Panthers Marchand line. I believe that's listed as their third line, but Brad Marchand is an ageless wonder and has played some fantastic hockey. I have to give him some real credit for that. And that whole line has just been dangerous every time they have stepped out there. It is now official. The Carolina Hurricanes, while avoiding the sweep, have gotten sent home by the Florida Panthers again. Oh, man, that is heartbreaking. The Florida Panthers are going back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Someone said Florida would repeat. I didn't believe them, but man, I think they're right. Player number 2, despite kind of a rougher performance in this game, although I blame it more on the guys in front of him, is Sergei Bobrovsky. As I said, he's just kind of evolved as the time has gone on. And number 1, we talked about him already, Stuart Skinner. Don't need to say more. You can see all of the insane stat lines on Instagram. It's been crazy. So just go look at that. But man, Dom, as we watch this series end, and Florida has once again, and Florida's been very respectful. They are not freaking out about this at all. Punch take it back to Stanley Cup Final 1. I'd like to say a lament for Brent Burns, who's closing in on 1,500 games without a Stanley Cup. I think he's probably still got another year in him. We will hope. But
yeah, he's a free agent this year at 40.
Colorado, come on, Burnsy, we'll get you one.
Yeah, honestly, please. You know what? I can wear my Sharks Brent Burns jersey to the next Avs game we go to. That'll be great.
Just can't wear number 8, boss. Sorry.
No. He wore 88 in San Jose.
Can't wear that one either.
Well, I would still wear that one because that's the one I have.
No, I'm saying he can't wear it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll 80 years. Yeah. But I hope he still has some in him. That's why I've been rooting for Carolina. He deserves to win a cup. He's second on the all-time list for most games played without a cup win, and is eking ever closer. So it's unfortunate. I don't know if you saw there before the full handshake line, but it seemed like the head coaches between Carolina and Florida were having a bit of a chat there. It didn't seem disrespectful, but it didn't seem happy or pleasant either, which obviously one team is getting sent home and Rod Brindamore is not going to be happy, but it seemed a little like the coaches had a disagreement about something there right at the end of the series with the handshake.
I didn't happen to see that. I did see them shaking hands. Paul Maurice stated in a previous series that the handshake lines are for the players in his mind, so he goes and pays respect to the other head coach in a different line. So, I think that's his right to believe that if that's what he wants to think. But yeah, certainly interesting. And speaking of Rod Brindamore, I mean, he finally got the win in the Eastern Conference Final, but do you think his job is in danger at all right now? I mean, he's gotten this team to multiple conference finals, but has never really been able to get them any further than that. I think this Carolina team did outperform expectations to a certain extent, especially since they weren't able to get a lot out of that Rantanen trade, although Stankhoven was great. I think they wanted to do more with those picks. So they did do well, but I mean, Dom, do you think, going back to the original statement there, that Rod the Bod's job is in danger at all, or do you think he's still okay?
Danger, maybe not quite. I think hot seat's the way to put it, because you just said something about the extra picks they have, and they've got extra cap space next year. I think he has next year's. They're giving him one more. He's like, okay, you got this. They had this thing with the trade deadline and Rantanen and everything, kind of messed things up, and they still went on a run near the end of the season and pushed strong into the playoffs. Had a great round, first two rounds again. So I think he has one more shot. But same thing happens next season. He is going to be shown the door. I mean, we saw this with people in multiple cities. He's coached for Vegas. He has coached for San Jose in deep playoff runs and just struggled to get over the hump. So it's, yeah, I think it's something that he will. I think he is at risk of having that happen, and he will be coaching somewhere the very next season somewhere else, because he has a really good system that is consistently getting teams to the playoffs, that elevates the players in his system. So he is by no means a bad coach, but on the hot seat, I think that it would be fair to say.
All right, fair assessment. Well, we're about to hit the presentation of the Prince of Wales Trophy, which is the trophy awarded to the Eastern Conference champions, which again, Florida Panthers have done for the third year in a row. This team is for real, everybody, and it's frankly remarkable, I have to say. Well, last year it looks like they did touch the trophy.
So 2023,
they touched it, and they didn't touch it last year. So I don't think they will touch it again this year, everyone. So for those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and Dom, if you have any expansion upon this, please say, but there is always a superstition for the conference finals trophy. Some believe that touching it brings you bad luck, which clearly for the Panthers it did. They lost the year they touched it, and then the next year they didn't. They won. Colorado touched the Western Conference equivalent, whose name is escaping me. That is the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl. There it is. They did touch it, which Joe Sakic and their players before them had done as well, and they obviously won. So just different superstitions, but it is a very real one, and it exists. You know what? This is good. This is good that this happened while we were recording, because it helped extend the episode a little bit. We got to do some live calls, live analysis. So this was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, so personally, I am of the superstitious variety and believe you should. The whole mantra of why not to touch the cup or hoist these cups is because they aren't the true prize.
Yes.
It is considered to show that you are too excited about winning something that for most teams doesn't mean anything. Yeah, any team would love to win their conference and go to the Stanley Cup, but it means jack if you don't get your name on. And so if you get excited, it's like being a professional and not being overly excited about something that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And it does matter. It's still a trophy, but it's not the trophy you want to. And so the belief is that by hoisting it, touching it, giving it the respect, you are disrespecting Lord Stanley's Cup, and that the bad luck, the hockey gods, whatever it may be, will turn on you in the final. I think we would have to do a deep dive to see if it's the same for the West versus the East. I've always known for the Eastern Conference, that one has historically been the one that I've seen be referred to as cursed. I haven't seen actually as much when it comes to the West, if that's deemed cursed or not, but it would appear that there could be an individual team history. Some teams,
yes,
that curse is real. Florida touched it, they lost. They didn't touch it, they won. Clearly, there is a right thing to do when you are in Florida. It's established, and every future Florida team should follow the model, because until something changes, that's what you do. The Avs touched theirs however many years ago. I'm not doing the math right now. My brain's
2022.
No, before that, the first one.
Oh, and I think they touched it back in 2001 too. So
okay, yeah. So if they touched it in 01 and then again in 2022, then that's a tradition where Avs teams should touch the cup because it has brought them success. So, the superstition, it's a beautiful part of sport. We all have to enjoy that, and everyone has their own belief. I think it's interesting to see how teams all agree and get along on this, where one person might want to touch it, but others don't. In general, I think the camp of don't touch it, even if it's one person, typically wins out. Obviously, the captain has some say in the matter as well. So where the captain goes, the team goes. But, I think it's something interesting to see. Maybe we do a deeper dive. But historically, it is the Eastern Conference Trophy that has been more cursed to my knowledge.
And that certainly may be the case. Funny thing from Joe Sakic, who basically you could see him mouth it when the Avalanche won the Western Conference. You could just see him say, just touch the damn thing. It was very funny as the other players were very tentative. Joe, who doesn't believe in superstitions, told the players to touch the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl, and obviously it led to success in that point. So Florida Panthers going back. And I did want to say before we move on to our fun fact and kind of round out the episode here, just how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup. Because again, they're shooting the ratchet, Brad Marchand. Because again, as I said, we're all frustrated that the Avalanche haven't won really much since the Cup win. It's been a very hard last few years with how much flux they have been in. However, look at Carolina, look at Dallas. They've gone all the way to round 3, and Carolina only won 9 games. You got to win 16. Florida's only won 12. They still have 4 more to go. And Dallas has made the conference finals for the last, let me think, 3 years? Or they've made it 3 times in the last 5 years. Impeccable team. And they haven't even gotten close. So it's just something to think about and ruminate on. There's a new word for you. Just how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup. That you can play additional hockey for almost 2 months. And sometimes it doesn't matter. And that's brutal. Brutal. Because again, even though Florida's going back to the finals, they still don't got it. Brutal. So,
well, yeah, it's at least a 20% extra, probably all things considered. That's assuming you sweep all your series and go 16-0 in the playoffs, which is just unheard of. That Avs team from 2022 is probably one of the closest ever to 16-4 accomplishing that feat. Yeah, so that's one of the best records all time. 16-4, 20 games when you have an 82-game season. Yeah, let's run those numbers real quick. That's an extra 24.4% longer season. So at a minimum, you're playing like a quarter of an extra season, basically. That's a lot of extra hockey. And the fact that Florida is going to, in effect, do that the 3rd straight year, because, yeah, they lost in 2023, but they were still there. It was still a long series. They didn't win 16 games, but they certainly played more than 16 games on the road to get there. I wonder, when is it going to add up on this team? Because it's really tough.
I don't feel like it ever will at this point. For now, remarkably, 6 years, a team from Florida has made the Stanley Cup Finals. Tampa made it 3 times, won it their first 2 tries until they met the Colorado Avalanche and lost. Florida lost it on their first try, won it the most recent try, and again, would not surprise me if they did it again. I'm not saying they will for certain. I don't want to jinx anybody, but it just would not surprise me. So just kind of fascinating that in the places where it doesn't feel like hockey should frankly exist is the places that it is most prosperous. And it truly will be a remarkable feat when a team from Florida does not make the Stanley Cup Finals. But right now, that is who rules hockey, truly. Because the West has at least had some variety of opponents. Because if we go all the way back here, even though, funnily enough, Montreal played Tampa Bay in a Stanley Cup final due to the COVID restrictions, but let's look at it. In their first win, Tampa Bay beats Dallas. And then in their next win, they beat Montreal, which will never happen again. So kind of a weird thing there. And then obviously they met Colorado. That's 3 different teams from the West against Tampa Bay. And then the next year you had Vegas against Florida. There's your 4th team from the West. Then you had Edmonton against Florida, your 5th team from the West. So it's only just now getting Edmonton again. So in that span of 6 years, you have had 5 different teams from the West in the final, but only 2 different teams from the East in the East final or in the East. And it's been Florida every time, a Florida team. Yet crazy.
And yet we can't ever seem to predict the Eastern Conference
dude. We're
for the playoff seeding or who's going to win through. And it didn't help that they played each other the first round and made it all that more difficult because, we all had Tampa. We had Tampa in the chip. We were that close. Well, what do you know? It's always interesting and baffling.
Next year I'll choose Florida and they won't even make it past the first round. That's exactly what's going to happen. So I do think the cup tax will be a little heavier on Florida this year, but we'll see, man. Bill Zito is done a fantastic job. Alrighty,
well, it certainly has to be heavier really quickly just because if Sam Bennett is going to get this big amount of money, they do have more free agents this year. If they're going to try to, Marchand is on an expiring contract, sure, be cheaper at this point, and he probably wants to stay as the Rat King, so he'll probably take a team discount, but still, they got a lot of players to sign, and the cup tax for back-to-back cups is just going to make a lot of these guys be even more expensive, and I mentioned it before, but what would have been your top player in free agency this year would have been Mikko Rantanen had he reached free agency. And now I think Mitch Marner is probably your top free agent option. So after that, there is a bit of a drop off. So I think these Florida guys are going to be able to ask for more money, and there's going to be a bidding war for their services, and it's going to pick the team apart a little bit.
Yes, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see. I will be watching this offseason with huge intrigue. But Dom, you know what? I have a fun fact for you today that has nothing to do with the Stanley Cup finals or the playoffs or anything, or even with any of the teams still involved. It was just a fun kind of tidbit that I came across watching the games recently, and I thought it was entertaining, so I wrote it down and I expanded upon it a little bit.
I'm excited to hear it.
Well, it's a nice, short and sweet one, but I think an interesting one all the more. Since Alexander Ovechkin's rookie season in 2005, he has scored 18.6 of all Washington Capitals goals in that span. An all-time total of 897 goals, which includes 326 power play goals, an all-time record, 5 shorties, 136 game-winning goals, all-time record, and a staggering 6,864 shots, all-time record, accompanied by 13,044 shot attempts.
Wow. Waiting to hear all-time record one more time in there. There was a lot of those.
Unfortunately not. But, in that statement, we had 4 all-time records. So just... the man knows how to shoot the puck, but don't you forget, everybody, don't let this recency bias fool you. Sidney Crosby is still the better hockey player.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument. The better all-around player. He's
correct.
Ovi has an office. Crosby owns the building. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my God, that was fire, dude. What? Ovi has an office. Sid owns the building. All right, Dom.
There's your one for listening to us all season and all my shitty puns. I had my one stroke of brilliance.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sticking with me.
Absolutely incredible. Well, everyone, I'm going to give Dom a chance to interject.
No, run away with it, bro.
The clock
Bring us home.
is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Did you know there is a comment section where you can leave your thoughts and questions? If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche, Sharks, or just hockey in general, leave it below and we'll be happy to try and answer it. There is also a unique poll for you to interact with every episode. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and share this podcast everywhere you can. Whether that's with your mouse or your mouth, get us to 20 followers, be that 20th follower. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And this is Dom from the tank.
Check out our new Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone.